I would like to invite His Excellency Somasundaram Skandakumar, the High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to Australia, to address you now.
Hi, Boban, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Honourable Scott McCalls, Chair of the Australia-Sri Lanka Parliamentary Friendship Group. Honourable Rachel Stephen-Smith, Minister for Multicultural Affairs. Ms. Elizabeth Cricket, Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs. Ms. Cathy Klugman, First Assistant Secretary, South and West Asia Division, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and other officials of DFAT. Mr. Swarnapala Devasirige, Secretary to the Ministry of Cultural Affairs of Sri Lanka. Mr. Ravi Bandhu Vidyapati, Artistic Director to the National Dance Troupe of Sri Lanka. Commander John Burke, Assistant Commissioner, National Manager, Protection Operations. Members of the diplomatic community, and my fellow Sri Lankans as representatives of Sri Lanka-Australia associations in Canberra. On behalf of my colleagues and the staff of the Sri Lanka High Commission, I wish to extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. This is the second occasion on which we are having the Sri Lanka Festival. We initiated it in November of last year, and we had tremendous support from our community. And this is virtually doubled for this year, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for the manner in which you've come forward to associate yourselves with this event. 2017 will probably go down on record in the history of our relationship with Australia of 70 years as being by far the most eventful one. It started with the visit of our Honourable Prime Minister in February this year as a guest of state, which was followed the next day by a memorable cricket match that was hosted by the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull at the Manuka Oval, where Sri Lanka participated against an invitation 11 of the Prime Minister, and a match that ended almost with the final delivery with the Sri Lankan team winning. And it was also memorable for the reason that it was perhaps the first time in the history of that match that the two Prime Ministers actually walked out to the center of the pitch to toss, flanked by the two captains. So you can be sure that that photograph is going to take pride of place when we eventually write our memoirs on this exceptional year that we have enjoyed with Australia. We moved on from there to April of 2017, when the Sri Lankan community, who have been very fortunate to live in this country and have benefited from all the exceptional values that Australia stands for, decided that they wanted to reciprocate that with a meaningful gesture. And the gesture that they made was to come forward to associate themselves with the blood donation program at the Red Cross Society on the very day that we celebrated our 70th anniversary. And this was on the 29th of April, 2017. This was followed by a guest of state visit by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Sri Lanka. And on this visit, His Excellency was felicitated by the Honourable Governor General. He had one-to-one meetings in Parliament House with the Honourable Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, and the Leader of the Opposition. And at each of these meetings, our President was lavishly praised and admired for his commitment to peace and reconciliation from the time he took office, which was in January of 2015, and the meaningful steps he had taken since then. We moved on from there to July of 2017 to celebrate our 150th anniversary of our tea industry. And this was followed by a reciprocal visit by the Honourable Foreign Minister Julie Bishop to Sri Lanka. And then, thanks to the intervention and the assistance of this wonderful friend of our country, the Honourable Scott McCalls, we had the unique privilege of being able to showcase our Sri Lankan tea in Parliament House for the benefit of the parliamentarians and the senators on the 6th of September when Parliament was in sitting. And thank you again for that wonderful gesture of yours, Scott. I would also like to acknowledge the role that Julian Hill, the Member of Parliament, played in that particular. And then in October, we had the reciprocal, the inauguration of the Sri Lankan Airlines flight to Melbourne, which means now that each and every one of you can fly direct to Colombo with fantastic hospitality services on board in just 10 hours and a half. And the way you'll be spoilt on that flight, you'll probably wish that the flight could have been longer. I can assure you that. And finally, you might call the jewel in the crown was when your Prime Minister, the Honourable Malcolm Turnbull, visited Sri Lanka as a guest of state on the 2nd of November. Through all this, I must also tell you that some very meaningful agreements have been signed between our two countries. And the nature of our relationship could not have been stronger. And as Prime Minister Turnbull himself referred to, it's a relationship that has been built on mutual respect and trust. And there could not be a finer way for us to sign off that wonderful year than to showcase what we have to offer as a Sri Lankan community and a Sri Lankan nation. And for that reason, I thank you very much for having found the time to be here. So next year, we move into our 70th anniversary of independence. And as we move in there, to my fellow Sri Lankans living in Australia, I will say that there are two precious values that we can take with us, from which we can all benefit. Values that have made Australia the great nation it is. And one is multicultural harmony, and the other is mutual respect. Thank you, Australia, and thank you all for being here. God bless you all. Thank you.